You know what? Let's try that one more time. That's right, folks. We're going to be looking at two movies. Of course, Apocalypse Now, the Redux version, and a Vietnamese movie also shot in the 70s. The Girl from Hanoi, The Little Girl of Hanoi, kind of multiple interpretations. I'm not 100% sure which, so you might hear us go back and forth. But you know what? Before I bring on my co-host, I do want to note something. Of course, longtime viewers of the show will notice that for the longest time, I have had the flag of Palestine, of a free Palestine, hopefully, on in a place of honor on our on-air sign. I have not taken it off because it's somehow magically there's peace. Just because there is a ceasefire hasn't stopped the Israelis from violating it. But, progress has been made, but still lots more to go. But in the spirit of, especially given the films we're talking about tonight, and in the spirit of none of us are free if some of us aren't free, I want to also highlight solidarity with the people of Ukraine. And so this is going into a place of honor for us in tonight's show, because the oligarchs, the imperialists in both the Russian Federation and the United States have decided, oh, we know what peace is. We'll just carve up, we'll carve it up, we'll shamelessly exploit, we'll steal, we'll rob peace. I tell you right now, that. Okay, anyway. Oh my goodness, am I having a hard time with this? Huzzah! Where's my applause? There we go. All right. Now with that out of the way, I think it's time to bring on my borscht bro, the man, the myth, the legend, my brother from another mother, Mr. Jim Chaboyko.
Sorry. I prefer the book Heart of Darkness to the movie Apocalypse Now, so you caught me reading. Actually, ironically, this is one of the, because my desk has a bit of a wah, live in an old house, and so this is one of the books that I use to balance the computer so it's not at an angle.
Either that, a novella, the perfect kind of wedge
like
book.
127 pages or something, and it's either that or Graham Greene's End of the Affair. So that's they're always handy generally. But, literally, the last word in that book, by the way, is darkness. Spoiler alert. It's a little on the nose, but you can't say, you can't argue with success. So
no. On that note, that is what we're talking about tonight, folks. Both Apocalypse Now, the Redux version, and the Vietnamese movie, The Girl from Hanoi, shot shortly after, actually, within a year after Operation Linebacker 2, which was just before the United States and the North Vietnam at the time made, the Paris Peace Accords went through and they made peace of a sort, which really just kind of, allowed the Americans to withdraw from the quagmire of Vietnam. Jim, I want to give, maybe we need to give just a little bit of historical context, especially given we're talking about, one movie that's set in very real events, whereas another, it's almost, it is kind of inspired, a loose adaptation of a book over 100 years or 75 years previous to when Apocalypse Now was shot. Whereas The Little Girl of Hanoi is set directly after Operation Linebacker 2. You know what? The American military has decided, we need to bring out one of the hits and bomb them even more. More than 20,000, as it says in the Wikipedia article here, more than 20,000 tons of ordnance, that's explosives, folks, was dropped on military and industrial areas in Hanoi and Haiphong, and at least 1,624 civilians were killed because of that surgical bombing that Kissinger would talk, that war criminal Kissinger would talk about. It was the last major military operation carried out by the United States during the conflict, and the largest bombing campaign involving heavy bombers since World War II, Jim.
Yay. Yay us.
Well, and that's, you know what? That's an interesting point, Jim. It is yay us. Although you and I are Canadians, Canada wasn't a direct combatant. We were, to quote, and I don't have the book in the studio with me, it's over that way a bit. Linda McQuaig's Holding the Bully's Coat has a nice, tight little narrative weaved into the larger idea of the book and how closely Canada allied itself with the United States' ridiculous military adventures. Even Vietnam, Lester B. Pearson, Prime Minister of Canada in the 60s, risked the ire of Lyndon B. Johnson because he, at Temple University, did a speech where he's saying, maybe all the bombing, because the bombing was happening the whole time. That was the beginning, middle, and end of Americans' involvement in trying to destroy communism in Vietnam, in what was formerly French Indochina. He, questioned it publicly, but at no time did he ever question, and did Canadian policy ever shift from the idea of we have to stop the communists, we have to prop up these criminal gangster regimes in South Vietnam. It was just that, maybe the bombing campaign was counterproductive. And that's been a constant. It's one of those things that, although Canadians like to think of ourselves as peacekeepers, we are regularly with the Americans in any of these bigger conflicts. And I love McQuaig's title, "Holding the Bully's Coat." Here, let me get that for you.
Yeah, if we're not directly involved, then we're sort of able to reap whatever. I have a distant relative that fought and died in the Civil War, and likewise there were
really
the Canadians that signed up and fought and died in Vietnam. Not tons of them, but there's books out there about them, and they would just sort of get absorbed into American units, and some of them didn't make it home, but there was some activity, some Canadian activity there. So
of course, at the same time, Canada, always that weird sort of, it's a perfect example, I think, of our relationship, meaning Canada, let's say Canada's relationship with the United States. And that we have to maintain access to this market, jobs, not just jobs, investment, money's at stake. It costs a lot of money to run a country. There's a lot of minerals we need to sell to others, but that was another thing. We'd never stopped in all these things. We may have accepted American draft avoiders.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean,
Too. Yeah,
as long
that's a
as
good
they
point.
were white and educated. I mean,
Yeah,
um,
I've known a few myself.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
I've worked with a few older gentlemen, but yeah,
William Gibson, the writer of Neuromancer, was
mm,
a draft avoider. You know,
yeah,
we love to claim him as Canadian, and he is a Canadian citizen, all that, but he started his life in the United States and just didn't want to go to a and good on, like, I mean, I don't want to say it, like, that's why I'm avoiding the dodge thing. Trump's a draft dodger.
mhm.
You know, that piece of is a draft dodger. These guys were like any reasonable person. I don't want to go do that. You know,
Mm.
of course, they weren't like Muhammad Ali going, "I'll go to jail instead." You know what was his quote? No Vietnamese ever called me insert N-word here.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
yeah.
I've got basically that he had no complaints. He hasn't been treated bad by the Vietnamese, but
Yeah, yeah.
unlike some others.
In his own country.
Hmm.
Um. Anyway, so that said, so I think it's good, especially you and I, Jim, as left to very left Canadians, that when we're saying to everyone, all the Americans, the Vietnamese, we're not talking about, like, we're not. That doesn't mean that our country's history doesn't have some part to play in this. Now, of
Yeah.
course, that doesn't mean Jim and I have some responsibility for it. We're not the rich and powerful. These are decisions made by rich and powerful people.
Also, I was too.
Were you, Jim? Yeah, you do look pretty. You've always had an ageless look about you. Perhaps you're more like Zelig.
Headline: Baby does not want to go to Vietnam. Yeah. That's,
All right, folks, let's get into it, shall we, Jim?
sure.
Before we jump into the spoiler zone, why don't we do a quick, and then we'll do the see it or skip it at the end again.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's also relevant to the movies we're talking about.
Mhm.
We are, again, we're talking about Apocalypse Now. The Redux version came out in 2000. This is a number of scenes that were shot, but for reasons of cutting for time to make exhibitors happy, or they just weren't happy with the production value, especially sound. Of course, come 20 plus years later, and it's like, hey, we've got a whole other way we can move these things, DVDs and that, and the technology's improved. We can clean a lot of those audio problems up. And so Coppola recut it. One of the multiple cuts, but this Redux version, it was released, and it's got some key scenes, and this is one of the reasons I pitched to Jim that we look at this movie, because I've always argued on the show that Apocalypse Now, at its heart, isn't really an anti-war movie. But I think these new scenes kind of change that a little bit. But it's also important to talk about, the dialectic. Great reference to Dennis Hopper's role in one of these movies. Spoiler alert, not the little girl of Hanoi.
Not the Vietnamese ones?
No, interestingly enough. Ostensibly, it's the story of a little girl being educated out in the relatively safe countryside, while her mother and her little sister are in Hanoi. Her dad is in the military. The street they live on has been bombed, and it's been reported that her mother and daughter are dead. And so she runs from the school to go back to Hanoi to find her father. And she has, I can't call them adventures, but she does. She journeys as she's looking for people. She meets other people, and we really do get kind of a capture in a you know, dare I say, Jim, let me pull up the poster. In a kind of Why We Fight Mrs. Miniver,
Miniver, yeah.
Mrs. Miniver style, sort of a kind of a capture of the Vietnamese experience during Operation Linebacker 2.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Jim, that sound like a decent capture? Is there any key thing I'm missing before we get into the review part, the spoiler-free review part?
Yeah, not in the overall summary. No, that's a good rundown.
Okay. All right. So, Jim, let me ask you this. What, give us your take on Apocalypse Now Redux.
Yeah,
Talk about the form of the film before we get into the real meat of it all.
It's almost difficult to critique. I mean, I've seen it probably half a dozen times now. I saw an extended version. I think the first time I saw the French plantation section, it might have been when they theatrically released it. And I was trying to get a bead on when that was, because I think early 2000s. And actually saw it. I don't know if you were there, but maybe I saw it with Darren or something, one of our mutual friends.
Yeah.
I saw it with a few people anyway. And they were even passed out like little not merch, but like little sort of almost like programs, like a 2-page program or something. Yeah. It's probably somewhere in my house. But so I had seen that. Yeah, it's when you've seen it so many times over the course of your life, and you see it as a teenager, you're blown away by it. Like, it's just like, whoa, this is trippy. This is not like any other war movie I've ever seen. And then you see different versions, and it's epic. Like I find it hard to really objectively. I don't know if I love it, but I love watching it, if that makes sense.
I'm getting what you're putting down. Sure.
The scale, like, I would never have it on my Letterboxd top 4, but or even top 10. But it's something I when you said, "Oh, let's watch this again," I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'm down." And I've got right into it, and because I haven't seen it for a few years, there's other things that I've picked up on. I've matured.
Absolutely.
My worldview has changed a little bit, and so and this different version, as you were saying, sort of adds layers to this story.
Yeah. No movie. Every movie changes just by the sheer fact of the rewatching.
Yeah,
especially over time. Because we're different people.
Mm-hmm.
For myself, Jim, I'm gonna say, it's still a capital G great film.
Mm-hmm.
It has, of course, it is a loose but pretty decent adaptation of Heart of Darkness. But I also saw, and I was trying to figure out, is that I have not read Heart of Darkness in years. And then I'm like, well, where was his? I know his inspiration was from direct experience, Joseph Conrad, but I was like, there's Dante's, like, the Inferno from the Divine Comedy in this film, especially when they're at the bridge and everyone's in the ground. And I'm like, that's a scene out of the Inferno. Like, there's so much going on there. There's so much. It is like almost a perfect film studies major. It's like, I wrote my honors dissertation on Apocalypse and the imagery.
Yeah.
Dante and Apocalypse Now. The other thing I did, and we'll get into it in more detail in the spoiler zone, but yeah, the addition of a couple of key scenes in the Redux version, I think, does change my opinion of it a little less. Like, I've always said that while you could argue that it is an anti-war film, I think it, in the end, kind of celebrates war. It makes it look cool. These new scenes change that a little, but, I'll elaborate further in the spoiler zone. Now, Jim, you know what?
We
Let
got
me ask
Shashank.
you.
We got Shashank with us as well.
Yeah, that's
Who
I
popped in? So
wanted to. Yeah. Oh, Shashank, my
yes.
friend. Great to see you here, dude. Um, the Now let's talk about the other film, my friend, and that's the. Give me your, or actually, with your permission, if you're cool with this,
Mhm.
I'll go first on this
Sure.
one. So I'm gonna say, and I still this movie, the little girl of Hanoi, the girl from Hanoi, it's it's rough. It's rough. At times I'm like, wait a sec, who's that guy? How did she get there? Like and I don't know if it's editing. You see the the swimming of focus where it's like, oh, you're really rocking that zoom lens. um, but unlike, and Jim, in a message to you, I compared this to the film Farha.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah.
About another girl who has an experience during the Nakba, the 1948 Nakba,
Mhm.
the birth of Israel. Um, ugh. the But I still, by the end of the movie, I'm like, this kid
Oh.
has something to do. She does stuff. I am emotionally engaged even when I'm like, what the hell? Where did that come from? I'm emotionally engaged. I am happy with the way it
Mhm.
plays out. Yes, it is a propaganda film. And it's a roughly made one. It
Mhm.
was made in the year after Operation Linebacker 2, while they were still fighting a war to reunite Vietnam. And yeah, I'm totally in on the Vietnamese narrative of their own experience. I'm not gonna, oh, well, there's complications. It's like, yeah, read the Pentagon Papers. No complications.
Mhm.
It was always awful. Um, but yeah, just as a movie, and a kind of a why we fight movie, I am like, I know why I'm here. I know who I'm rooting for. I know I can kind of figure out what's going on. There's some weird cuts and
Mhm.
everything, but I'm like, yeah, I'm there, and I am there here. How could
Yeah.
you not? How could you
Mhm.
not? Are you gonna be like, no, I don't care about the little girl. Of course you care about the little girl. And it's because the little girl does something.
Mhm.
She is an active agent in her life, you know? So, of course, yes, people help her regularly. How could you not? It's a little girl who's got a mission.
Mhm.
What about you, my friend? What's your.
Well,
I'm looking forward to your. Well, Rob, I disagree completely. I could give a rat's. You know what?
well, apparently the critical drinker didn't like this one. He said it was woke. And he didn't like the fact that females had speaking parts. No, anyway, yeah, it is a movie, and I don't mean that in a sarcastic way. It
That's
has
right,
all the
folks. Please like, subscribe, and ring that bell.
it has all the poetry of like all the visual poetry of a movie, and I think it's got a good heart. That's
Yeah.
half the battle when a movie or something, a book or a piece of art is written in good faith from the right place, I
Yeah.
think, for lack of a better term, is that you can sort of sense that. Now, is it propaganda? Yeah, it's pretty rough propaganda. I would say this: it's at times the movie's a bit of a reverie. Like it starts off with shots of trees and
Yeah.
and piano music, and I was like, oh, this is way more sort of artistic and a little less on the nose than I thought it would be. It ultimately
Yeah.
sort of does get into the on the nose part. Uh, I prefer the screen time with the kids, because
Yeah.
that's something that you can't really fake, and she is a great lead.
Yes.
She is watchable. She's got all the stuff that you'd want from a child actor, none of the precociousness.
Yeah.
I think they have her crying almost in every scene, which I would question that decision. I mean, of course she's sad, but I think she'd probably be more in shock than anything.
Listen, the tears just come.
Yes, yeah. But well, and as a lot of the adults tell her, don't cry, little girl. That's
because I'm uncomfortable now.
Well, also, it's like just push it down, push it down, you'll be fine. So what? We all lose family members, but
it is. I mean, upwards of 2 million Vietnamese died.
Oh yeah. No, so when it gets to the adults, especially the family shot scenes, you almost get that sort of glaze. Like the adults have sort of that glaze, like, yes, little girl, you are part. Yes, sister, I will help you with anything. Like they've got that North Korean banknote kind of, family looking to the future kind of thing, which is easy to make fun of, but it does. Yeah, exactly. Like, and things flying in the wind, and they're.
But I mean, honestly, Jim, I will. In this film's defense, this isn't just here. Let me.
Yeah,
I mean, look at Mrs. Miniver here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a standard war propaganda movie thing.
Look at those mosquitoes. Yeah. But so yeah, I mean, so it's almost like there's sort of two parts of this movie. And of course, so with this, with the Apocalypse Now, and we'll get into this just quickly, the danger sort of almost comes from within, also from the external parts. But with the Vietnamese one, they're all on the same page, and maybe they were, that they're all like, let's all like, she's not in danger, right? Like, like that what was that Apple Apple TV movie that we watched about the bombing where the kid
Blitz.
Yes, yeah. So he would get into various kind of scrapes and stuff like that. But so a little bit of a 2-movie thing here, but overall I think there's moments of they use animation in kind of interesting ways.
Yeah.
They talk about, first of all, you're there. Like I'm sort of half obsessed with filming locations. So like you're right there where not a lot of cameras got at that point in time. And they're showing like fairly fresh damage from actual bombing campaigns.
Yeah.
There's a few fires that are lit that are obviously, but so it's really kind of a mind-blowing movie to watch. And like I said, if only for the kids, if only to watch the kids, it's super watchable. I think, taken with a grain of salt. But I mean, what is the director going to do? He's going to have to go through the government to get this thing made in the first place.
I have no problem. It's not some artist going, I want to make this is not say, come and see.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem believing it's like, I want to make a movie about these and I think this movie is sincere.
Oh,
yes, it's propagandistic, but it's sincere. I do not think the director is like, oh, I gotta go deal with notes.
Yeah. Especially when you're dealing.
Will I get my vision? No, I think he's like, especially I'm assuming it's a he. These names, I didn't even attempt to. It's hard to figure out, hard to research it. Mm-hmm.
Well, especially with the sections.
We'll get Luna Oy on the show if she deigns to with her. She's a big deal on the interwebs, but maybe she can help us with that.
Especially with the kids, the sections of the kids. Now, and also it gets a bit rough near the end. I suspect they ran out of steam. But you know what I would love? I would love to see doesn't have to be long, a documentary on the making of this thing, because they have I think they actually have prisoners in this, like American prisoners. How else would they get? There's a couple, maybe they'd be Russians or something. I don't know. They walked by all these sort of. There's a black guy in there, and they're all being marched.
A black woman doctor.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that on that level, it's fascinating. How did it get made? How did it get cast? This guy, this director, not sure. Yeah. And went on to film a bunch of other things, and some of them sound pretty interesting. And born in 1931, evidently still alive. I can't find any evidence of their death, but But so I would totally watch another thing by them. Some of them fairly recent.
Yeah.
But if you go on the Wikipedia page, there's no hype. There's like maybe one hyperlink for
Yeah.
one of the cast members, like not even the child actress who's voice talent in a video game called Viet Cong in 2002, which is kind of sad.
I did find, and I'll
But
put a
yeah, it's kind
link.
of fascinating.
I only found this last hour, like the last hour, Jim.
Mm.
I found this, and I'll put a link to it in a pinned comment. Oh, and also, folks, in the description, we do have a link to the movie. You can see it on YouTube. It's got subtitles burned in. Recommend watching it. But
Yeah, I
here
would
is
like to read that myself.
the Asian Studies. I think it's Association for Asian Studies.
Oh, there you go.
Movie review of it. You can even download the PDF. Good academic journal. So, like I said, I only found it in the last hour. There's those.
The guy who looks like Wedge, I thought. I'm like, what's Wedge doing here?
Yeah, it's democratic governments, media, and war. Editor's note. Anyway, worth taking a look. Yeah, that's a documentary I'd like to see. But like I said, I found out about this film from Luna Oi's channel. And because she was doing something with the Democratic Socialists of America where they're showing this film. All right. You know what? Enough of that. Let's, Jim, I think it is time.
I did wonder how you stumbled on this. Both movies, by the way, are available on YouTube. So, yeah, no paywalls, just link right up.
I rented it. Borrowed it on Hoopla, the Apocalypse Now Redux.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah. All right. You know what, though, it is time for the spoiler zone. Now, Jim, I think, most of my questions actually revolve around Apocalypse Now, but much like the way I kind of look at Sinners, or the way I look at, what is it? The Life of Charlie.
Oh, yeah, the one with Thor there. Not Thor, Loki. Life of Chuck.
Life of Chuck. Thank you. Yes. There's a dialectical relationship here. One I've established, but it is you've got Apocalypse Now, which is very much it's an American experience of an American war. Like the Vietnamese are almost like extras in the movie based on the Vietnam War. And I think the other film will more come up in that way. But Apocalypse Now, especially you and I, raised in a Western tradition, I think it's an interesting movie because there's a lot of contradictions here. The bigger questions I'd like to talk about, let's say, between these two films are, well, like I did if you look at here, it's villains versus heroes, what makes, who's a hero here? What is a hero? When we're talking about films about war, especially a war that actually happened, a war that happened in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
You and I were alive during the Tet Offensive. Of course, we were babies, but we were alive.
Yeah.
But the other question is, and it still come back to that, Jim, it's about, which film are these films pro-war? Are they anti-war? Are they, how did I put it? Especially when we talk about Apocalypse Now, is it critiquing war or the prosecution of the war? Is one a pro-war movie and one an anti-war movie, or, and I think, but maybe what I'll start, Jim, is, what would you say, we've got 3 big new scenes. Like, so much ink has been spilt on this film, but there's three key scenes in my mind, and that is the one. So Willard and the crew, the PT boat, the patrol boat, sorry,
Mhm.
they get past Kilgore. They
Robert Duvall, yeah.
steal Robert Duvall's great scene. They steal, or they don't. Willard steals his surfboard,
Mhm.
his longboard, and then they have to hide because Kilgore has sent helicopters with those stupid speakers. And what Willard is saying, it's just a tape. It's just a tape of him saying, Lance, come on, man. Like, you know how hard it is. You're not in danger. I just want my board back.
Like, just on repeat. Yeah.
Just on repeat.
Just on a loop.
As they're looking for him, as they're hiding under it. And it's like, well, do you want to go back? Hell no. Like, Kilgore is the first crazy guardian on this quest.
Mhm.
They're both quest movies, but this is the first guardian on the quest. Then, of course, there's I think another key scene, an addition, is with the Playboy playmates.
Oh, yes.
In that camp that's just getting rained out. It's being flooded, as they get into crazier and crazier, places. And then last, but certainly not least, in my opinion, the real heart of the movie, or the heart of what's wrong with everything, is the French plantation scene.
Mhm.
Not just the way they come up on it, what goes on there, love, and you're a lover and a fighter, Which one do you want to talk about first? What of those new scenes changed the movie for you fundamentally, and how?
I think there's a lot of criticism about the French plantation chunk there. I think it's about 15 minutes. I kind of love it.
What?
Yeah, it's
I kind of love it.
I find it super mysterious. I think it adds to it. It's does it add anything to the character of Willard, and does it, whatever. I think it's an interesting historical perspective. The sort of the second part, the morning after, with the Playboy bunnies, that's just kind of weird and sticky, and it was kind of actually a hard segment to watch.
Yes.
But yeah, if you want to talk about the first one, I think the first one, and I might not have even picked up on it that much until you pointed it out, that what happens is that Duvall.
Which scene are we talking about? Oh, the Kilgore.
The Kilgore scene. Yeah. Is that he becomes quite a little bitch boy about his surfboard being stolen, and it's so funny because he's so obsessed with surfing that he's almost boring. Like, he's trying to get everyone engaged, and even the surfers are like, "Okay, dude, settle down." Yeah, like the actual surfers, the Timothy Bottom, or the Lance character. I think it's Sam Bottoms, actually. It almost reminds me of the reactions that I get when I bring up birding at a cocktail party. It's just the glaze. But he's constantly going on about it and just going, heavy board or light board. Oh, wait, I just got to take care of this. And then he goes back to it. So it reveals a lot about his character. It makes him seem, like a lot of tough guys. When a lot of tough guys try to come across as tough, but secretly they're just sort of not that tough. They when pressed into a corner, they get kind of whiny, and like certain politicians down south.
You're not talking about this guy, are you?
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, Tripocalypse Now. Give me a break. Yeah, it's so yeah. It doesn't. I love when he takes off his shirt and it's just the yellow sort of
Ascot.
ascot and no
Yeah.
shirt underneath, and he just sort of whips it to the side and that kind of thing. But yeah, no, it reveals him as being, when challenged, he's just as weak as everyone else.
Yeah. Well, even I love that the comment, because all the guys are afraid on the boat,
Mm,
and rightfully so.
yeah.
But how Willard goes, he's not going to want to let the guys upriver know that somebody stole his board. He's that big air cav guy. Like how Willard knows the ego thing. It
Yeah.
also makes Willard sort of an Odysseus like character. You know,
Mhm.
that he steals this thing, even though he's got a boat, he's semi-responsible for. Yeah, he is just a passenger,
Mhm.
as the petty officer reminds him later in the film. But, it's like, wow, you'll any stupid thing because you had to steal the guy's board. Like, you got him out of there. It's like the stick in the eye, in the Odyssey, the first big adventure, the first real violation in the Odyssey, where he blinds the Cyclops,
Mhm.
and it's like, you didn't have to do that. No, man, he's like playing word games and taunting him, and it's like, what? Why? You didn't have to do that, and yet here we are. You know,
Yeah. I
um,
I I think another thing too is that you know, justly or not, it's the most levity in the whole movie. Like, and
yeah,
it's the only time that you really see Willard, Martin Sheen's Willard, sort of relax a little bit, and it's a character, it's a sort of a little grace note for his character. I think it kind of reminded me of the extended version of Fellowship of the Ring, where they finally show Boromir having a good time. He's sort of wrestling with the hobbits and laughing, and I'm like, it's 30 seconds. It's 30 seconds that changes my total perspective on Boromir. Like it just sort of. And another thing that had been cut in an
that
earlier
is a
spot.
great. Sorry, I'm going to cut in there quickly.
Sure.
That is a great point. This is the scene where I was like, wow, if there's a scene I wish they kept in, it's this scene, because it undercuts the coolness. It
Yeah.
changes the tone of what we saw before. It's all
Mhm.
of a sudden you're going, this guy's just a maniac and an
Yeah.
idiot and like you say, a weak one. Sorry, back to you, Jim.
But yeah, so Willard's sort of rolling and literally laughing, and Martin Sheen is so freaking great in it. Like the performances, and he's such a great leading man in this. But yeah, so it did remind me of I was going to say another thing too. It did remind me of Boromir. It sort of added to
Yeah.
his character. Oh, and the other thing was, I was reading a little bit about the Redux version, and they had taken out a scene or a clip of a scene where a mother brings an injured baby to Kilgore and he helps her, or he makes
Yeah.
sure that the kid gets. And he said, "I love that." I think he said, he was the one. He said, "I love that because it added complexity to him. Like he's not that much of a monster that he couldn't recognize that this mother needed help,
He's
right?"
a
And
child, not a.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he hasn't. They've all gone insane, but he is not. Yeah,
There's
cruel.
still some, there may
Yeah,
still be some humanity.
yeah.
It doesn't excuse,
No,
you know, his wanting to wipe out a village to go surfing, but um yeah, it sort of adds to his character. And a lot of
yeah,
times when you watch, back in the days, kids, when they had DVDs, you could watch the deleted scenes. And not that I disagreed that every deleted scene should be included, but a lot of times when I did have a problem, it was that it gave the character layers and we missed out on that.
yeah.
So
Um, what what about that? I agree with you. The French scene is like we're seeing a microcosm of everything wrong about the Vietnam War,
yeah.
everything wrong about Milius's version. I think some of that stuff was written straight, and Milius, the writer of the film, a known, self-described right-wing extremist
who never served, and
like so many of these.
Yep.
Although he apparently really did have one and was kind of bummed out. Allegedly, they had some sort of health issue that kept him out.
Yeah. Just quickly, this is sort of the rabbit hole of almost any of the
Okay,
programs.
that's why. Do we want to go down the rabbit hole? Because this is a big movie.
I just want to mention a couple of things. There's a Milius documentary on either Canopy or Hoopla. That's worth watching. I also wanted to watch Hearts of Darkness, which is not streaming anywhere, so I have a copy from the library coming in for me. And then there's things like
Filmmakers Odyssey or Filmmakers Apocalypse,
which they refer to quite often in the Community episode where they're filming a new commercial for Greendale. And the dean loses his mind, like Kurtz. But anyway, so there's lots of other things to explore here. But,
let's go to the next scene before we get to the plantation scene, and that is they've been on the river. They've passed by that ridiculous concert where everyone went crazy over the bunnies. It all just devolved into the helicopter taking off, guys hanging on. Like, it's just nuts because they're so undersexed, oversexed, the passions. And you see the shot of a few Vietnamese on the other side of the fence looking at these crazy people going, really? They're running the show here. It's much later than that. It's rain and rain and more rain. And they come up on this little outpost. And we see the bunny helicopter. And all of a sudden, the guy, the MC, looking even more pimpy than he did.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, we come to Willard goes with them, and he comes out and says, listen, for a few barrels of fuel, we can all have some time with the bunnies.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then sex happens. Let's put some air quotes on it.
Mm.
And it's like, whereas before they look super sexy, here they're all in filth, and it's like it's the least sexiest thing ever. Like,
and they seem kind of troubled too. I mean, it's not seem, they are kind of.
I chose pimp,
yeah,
for a reason, because that's what he's doing. It's like, hey, we all want to get out of here, and I have some girls, and you have some fuel.
I mean, this is sort of, almost the height of Hugh Hefner and Playboy that this was filmed. So probably a little bit of cachet being in the film, but I can't believe he sort of allowed, like, it's not a great depiction of his company and the use of the materials and stuff. I was surprised to see that it got by him, and maybe he just thought it was a sort of a different version of what Playboy actually is. But after he died, it turned out that it was a pretty seedy operation in a lot of ways. But I was surprised.
I think if Hef watched it, he went, hey, where's that awesome scene?
I wonder if that was part of it. Why it was cut out.
Looking at it, this is where our older eyes and our current cultural context judge or wonder, how did they not see that? I think when they made it in the 70s, they didn't see it. They're just, of course that'll happen. I think it's there for a reason. I think you're supposed to not think it's sexy. You're supposed to, it's gross.
Yeah.
These guys, like, it's fuel for sex. They're pimped out. But there's also a kind of weird sort of, they were always sex workers.
Mm-hmm.
Here now they're being forced to have sex. but it's the whole thing. It even makes the earlier scene grosser.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the USO concert thing grosser, because
Mhm.
here it is now, and even the way they're like the one with is it Eileen Camp?
Pauline Camp.
Pauline Camp, yeah,
Pauline with a C.
yeah. Colleen, thank you. Yes, Colleen Camp, great actor. Just
Tons of roles. Like she was in
Clue.
Clue and yeah, all kinds
Yeah,
of stuff.
she played the Pocahontas kind of thing, but apparently she's some weird bird nut because they're all kind of crazy.
Mhm.
You know, it could only gotten crazier as they're being traipsed around Vietnam. But her, the other bunny, I don't think we ever see the third.
Yeah, yeah.
But the main one, the Playmate of the Year.
The cowboy, yeah.
Yeah.
She a cowgirl,
Yeah.
sorry.
That when they're these sex scenes, they're both having conversations with each other, the Lance and Chef and the poor kid,
Clean.
Clean from the outside. I'm next. They're having these experiences and they're talking to each other, and it's two different conversations. Even as the guys are trying to dress them up like they're mannequins and put
Oh, that's
makeup
right.
on them.
Yeah.
Like it's just
Yeah.
it's creepy, it's wrong, it's gross, and it's deeply sad.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and Frederick Forrest is trying to pose her, and then he's got
Yeah.
the centerfold out on the boat itself. It's like, I've been looking at this gal for years, for months or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, it doesn't yeah,
Yeah.
Arthur.
And this is where it's like, okay, this is we'll try and answer these questions, but this changes my opinion of the message of the movie.
Mhm.
You know, now let's get to the last major addition, and that is the French plantation.
Mhm.
Folks, if you haven't seen it, well, I'll describe it to you roughly. We're in the spoiler zone. It's your own damn fault if you haven't watched the movie. Pretty much, we're well past the halfway point. We're really getting, this is like the final, near the end of the second act. Clean is dead. They come up upon this thing, and it's a ramshackle kind of, looks like it's been burnt out dock, smoke and colored light coming out of the smoke, because it's becoming more surreal, more dreamy. And then all of a sudden the mist blows away and they're surrounded. They're on a French rubber plantation with a bunch of soldiers, and it looks like Vietnamese, Cambodians, the local, like I would imagine the Vietnamese going collaborators with their former imperial rulers, talking about being on a plantation. And then, of course, they have a moment for Clean when they bury him. Question for you, Jim. Not to answer right now, but, this is where the petty officer, I can't remember his fucking name, but he gives the flag to Willard like he's their dad or something, on behalf of a grateful nation. Will you accept this on behalf of a grateful nation? But then we have a dinner where the French kind of justify why they're there and how it's the CIA's fault, and it's everybody's fault for there, and and these communists back home and they were betrayed. And then there's a love scene between one of these women, this French woman. She's lost her husband. She sees in Willard someone appropriate to have sex with. Not the rest of the crew are sitting at the little kids' table.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's there's even a lot like, and it's like they're smoking opium because that's the sexiest drug. And she's talking about, my husband was both a lover, he loved, but he also fought. And you you love and you fight. There's two people in you. And I'm like, are you with me here? And then, of course, their boat's been repaired and off they go. Like the guy who's sort of running the whole operation is like, go fight your war. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean,
you mentioned some people think you had mentioned some people think some of the criticism of this scene was it didn't really advance the narrative or anything.
They saw it as a bit of a side quest, or not even that they do anything, but it's just sort of like a pit stop, I guess, for lack of a better word. But yeah, what's the purpose of it? I think it's to show that other countries have been in this position, and they say to them, the French, and it's interesting because, like most dinner parties and movies, it doesn't end up very comfortable. You basically want to skedaddle out of there. It's just like, oh, good, a dinner party, everyone's gonna get along. Well, no, not really. And they eat. It's not that sort of adversarial, but they do say to the guy sitting right immediately to his right, I think, just says, and he in tears, he's like, please do not repeat our mistakes. By that point it's a little late, but I think it gives a sort of like a historical.
Rest assured, our imperialist ambitions will not be thwarted like yours.
We have owned this land for 75 years, which is almost forever.
There was nothing there.
There was nothing here.
And we built it up. This is ours.
It gave the people jobs. I mean, how many populations have ever heard that?
On a rubber plantation.
On a rubber plantation.
Yeah, when you think of a good time, you think plantation work.
Yeah. I mean, it offers a lot. Like it does remind you that the French were here, that I don't think a lot of people realize these days, that the French were here for a good long time beforehand, and they
the whole region, folks, was called French Indochina.
Indochina, yeah.
And part of the deal, one of the reasons, the sleazy deals made with the Free French was they got their imperial holdings back.
Oh yeah.
And that one of the ways they were able to keep the French Navy out of the war after France fell and the Vichy puppet government was, hey, well, we get our stuff back, right?
Yeah. So I mean, it offers that perspective. It shows that other countries have been there before, and it's just there's the whole sort of ghostly aspect of it, that this is, and these let's get this straight, these people are hooped. Like there's no way. This movie almost seems, and I'll maybe ask this towards the end, this movie almost seems like everybody here is doomed. Like I can't see a lot of the people returning home, but I'll ask that at the end. And these folks, I don't see them surviving this at all, but who knows. I think it's a fascinating, it's ghostly, it's historical, it's haunting, and yet they're not like these vague ghosts. They're very angry ghosts. I'm using that term lightly, they're not literal ghosts, but they're just, they have quite a presence, and they have these barbed conversations at the dinner table about, and the lead guy, he rails against something that Willard says, and he just says, this is mine. We're not going to be defeated.
Why are you going back to France? How can you stay here?
The other thing too is that they say they're
not. Time does Willard. It's never put back on Willard. Well, what the fuck are you doing here, man?
Yeah.
Why are you here? The mission.
He's almost acting like he's a big observer through the whole, unless he's directly killing somebody, and he is an assassin. He's killed like a tax collector, we're told, and we see him giving the coup de grace to a wounded
I
woman.
thought he
And
was a grocery clerk.
was it? Oh, yeah, yeah.
Sorry, continue.
But these are people that probably aren't going home, and they don't have a home. Like the French in this, they're not going to be going back to Paris, and they're not part of Vietnam enough to be able to establish, or to maintain their foothold there. So they're kind of lost people. And Willard has lost, we're told, his wife. He still has pictures of his wife and son.
Yeah.
But I think it's his son. But and he's got letters, but he's not got a home anymore. He's not going home himself. So,
yeah.
And the war's not going to last forever. So what are these folks going to do? But
you know what? I didn't quite read it. Yes, they are doomed. But they're not doomed because they can't go back to France. They could go.
Oh, yeah.
They could stay. They would have to actually then integrate themselves into the new Vietnam. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, they want it like it was before when they were king at exploiting the locals. And that is why they're killing everyone. It's even though it's like, oh, we killed 12 of these and 6 Americans. Well, maybe that was a mistake,
Cubans from Florida have entered the chat.
Yeah. Well, but that's it's like these Ukrainian nationalists that came after the revolution. It's like, they're just, we'll go back and we'll get our holdings back. And it's like, you know what? No, that's, I remember a Ukrainian, emigrated from Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And how he talked to Ukrainian Winnipeggers and how his Ukrainian would be corrected and how, my Oma said, and it's like, well, yeah, that was the language of the 20s. You know, the 1920s, the country's changed, But yeah, these French, they could go home. They want something they can't have. And they're also blaming, it was a weird kind of, talking about how the CIA invented the Viet Cong. It's like, they didn't invent them. Did the OSS finance Ho Chi Minh and other rebels? They're just like, left, right, don't care. Are you fighting the Japanese? Great. Yeah. Have some dough, Totally will support your independence,
Yeah.
Well, some of your independence.
We never go back on our word.
Absolutely, it'll be a free election. Once we're sure that the Vietnamese Communist Party, that is the Viet Cong, the Vietnamese Communist Party, won't get elected. And the circumstances never arose. So it was always some propped up, corrupt, right-wing Catholic dictator tied into the former French rulers and just continuing to want to be, well, king. Mm-hmm. And I think I bring that.
How'd that work out for him?
Exactly. I bring that historical context up because that was another thing where they're blaming everyone but themselves.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I don't think Willard, as he observes these people, he ever goes, maybe that's us. And what the hell are we doing here? And I think this is why, coming back to some of those critics who say, well, yeah, nothing, let's say, the plot don't plot, but it is an important thing to happen. It is also the last bit of, wow, this is kind of crazy. It's the last opportunity for him. And he's even, this woman says, lover and fighter. It's like almost like a pick one.
Yeah.
It's his last, they've had a death of this kid. He could go back. Sorry, couldn't find him.
Yeah.
It's his last real opportunity to turn back. but he's got to go fight his war. And so it's also the inevitability of his going forward that
Mhm.
Willard is a protagonist that it's like, yeah, he's not the mission. You
Mhm.
know, that's what he wanted. That's why he returned. He wanted another mission. He wants,
Yeah.
it's the mission. He's got to do it. He's hooked on this stuff, you know, just as apparently a hot French woman with opium couldn't keep him from the mission. And so I think it really is important. It achieves so much in 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Worth it. Oh yeah. I say it's the heart, but that's not quite the word. But it is. It's super important. It's super important before you move into the third act,
Mhm.
where petty officer dies, like, you know, and it all just gets crazy weird.
Yeah. I think especially if you've seen the initial 2 hour version or whatever, however long it is,
Yeah.
and then you see this, I think this is like I appreciated it more having seen the earlier version, you know, the initial theatrical version. It was kind of, you know, and there's also the mind-blowing quality of it. Like let's not, you know, put that aside. It's mind-blowing. Like it's foggy and weird, and there's this little bastion of sort of civilization where they have like a multiple course dinner, and they've got obviously the, you know, the food, you know, the French food. They're not just eating, it's not bread and
From one
water.
of their Viet servants who
Yeah.
doesn't even speak French.
Yeah, and then there's the cool aspect of having a chef speak French to them. You know, they're like, oh, they're speaking French, and he, you know, he
Yeah.
shouts into the jungle and that kind of thing, because he went to school in Paris
The
for
one
to be a
peacemaker of the whole
saucier.
operation. The whole
Yeah,
operation. Yep.
yeah, yeah. So that the whole thing was just sort of, after, you know, as long as you've seen the first version, seeing it, seeing the redux is kind of like a treat a bit. I think
Yeah.
as opposed to seeing the whole thing, the whole 3 hour and 15 minute thing, the first go. You know, it's
Versus, of course,
a
the
tight
girl of Hanoi,
72.
a tight 72 minutes.
Yeah.
But related, and they're both quest movies.
Mhm.
You know, you've got the little girl from Hanoi, she is on a quest. She's on a quest to find her father. Bizarrely enough, he's on a quest to this guy, like, I mean, he's gonna kill, but becomes this, he is a father figure.
Willard, yeah, okay, yeah,
Willard and Kurtz.
yeah, yeah,
Like Kurtz is a father, well, a kind of holy figure, a Jesus figure, a dark, an antichrist, and I don't mean that in the
literal.
American evangelical idea of it. Like he's kind of a negative,
Yeah.
Christ figure.
Well, and then there's the. I was thinking about this too, and it starts off with the Doors, and I think it ends with the Doors. The end. And I thought,
yes, it does. The end. Literally the end. My
perfect.
only friend, the end.
And that the longer version has to deal with, you know, like violence in the family and the toppling of a father, and you know, all that kind of thing too. And I was thinking, how different would this movie, like that song is the perfect anchor for this movie. I couldn't imagine any other song if it didn't have it. I don't know if it would be a lesser movie, but it sort of perfectly bookends, you know, the start where they have explosions in the jungle in slow motion, and the you know, that great guitar, and then having it at the end too. Yeah, just a great needle drop, I guess.
That
for
leads me though to a question here. Got a couple before we get into the big questions they kind of set up at the beginning. But I gotta admit, by the time we hit the end and we know what's gonna happen and it happens, I'm like, okay, so what's the point of all this? I I felt like the movie was running out of gas then. Like
Mm,
it's almost like, oh, we gotta have a finale. No one goes through all this. We have brought the audience through all this. We need an ending.
mhm.
But I'm like, I have a hard time drawing any meaning other than what we've already referred to, this kind of maybe mythic, maybe semi-religious, like the guy did set himself up as a god out there, but it seems almost like a nihilistic end. What did you take away from the ending of the film? Beyond what you've already said,
Yeah, well,
eloquently so.
to your earlier question of whether this is pro-war or anti-war, I wonder if it's not so much either of those, just about the inevitability of war. You know, as long as you have men like this, you know, who are given these choices and decide to do what they ultimately do. That's a great poster, by the way. You know, that maybe it's just about the inevitability of things. I mean, the title "Apocalypse Now," right? It's not saying that, you know, especially the word "now" is that this is what is it saying? The past isn't dead; it's not even past. Like it's part of what the states is, you know,
Yeah.
almost to the point where sometimes the country seems lost if they're not in the middle of something.
You know what?
Uh,
That's a great. I'd refer to the bully's quote. The bully. You know what, Jim? I'm going to be right back. Here,
oh,
take it away briefly while I run and grab the book because I
oh, sure.
need. There's just a great reference that I think speaks to this. Entertain our crowd.
The old
Entertain
turtle.
our dozen fans.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So as Rob's going to get the book, he's better at freestyling than I am, but yeah, this is quite the thing. As I mentioned before, there is the documentary Milius on either the free streaming apps, Canopy or Hoopla. There's Apocalypse Now. There is Hearts of Darkness, which is really hard to find. I ultimately came across one copy in the entire city of Winnipeg in the library. Um,
Torrenting does exist, folks. I'm not advocating piracy, but I am
yeah,
seeing it exists.
yeah. If I mean, you're better at that kind of thing. Oh yeah, yeah. I should say too that I watched a really, and I meant to. I've been really busy with work these days, but I meant to send it to you. He said that, you know, a lot of things are referred to. There's a YouTube commentator, and he said a lot of things are referred to in this movie. You know, the reference here, reference there, references. You know, there's whatever allusions. But he said one of the ones that a lot of people look over is the Golden Bough, which is the study of primitive religions and
Debunked. Yeah, and there's a shot of it right at the end.
yes, yeah, in
I
amongst Kurt's the stuff that
Yeah,
he's, as we understand,
yeah.
old newspapers, old time magazines. There's the Golden Bough and something else that I had written down. But part of that deals with part of what the Golden Bough talks about is the role of the dying god, and that it
Yeah.
was not uncommon to have a dying god, and that's Kurtz is the god figure. He's also dying, and they say Hopper's photojournalism journalist character says, yeah, he's dying, or at least I think he's
Yeah,
dying.
yeah.
Um,
Something
lots of
big's gonna happen. Well, it is an
yeah,
apocalyptic tale, right?
yeah, oh
And
yeah,
it
yeah.
is an apocalypse for this community, perhaps.
Hmm.
I think though, and it is interesting. When I saw the Golden Bough, I was like, yeah, that's a big. If you're into the writer, it's like if you're into. Well, speaking of books, if you're into
Yeah.
the Hero of the Thousand Faces, or I got a couple of those writers' journey in that. It has been discredited as discredited is harsh. I mean, written in the late 19th century. It is,
Yeah.
uh, so yeah, anthropology, uh, ethnographies, ethnographic studies, comparative mythology is moved way past it. There's a lot of wrong ideas in it, but it still has a lot of weight in English studies.
Yeah.
And in especially Hollywood, in writers. I bet you Milius was a big fan of it, and so I just thought it's like, there we go. There's the book the movie was based on, and I'm going to relate it to what you're saying about the inevitability of war.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's an inevitability. I think actually another film sort of offers a different reason for war, but
I hope it isn't.
Definitely this film, has an opinion on the subject.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to, and speaking of which, okay, here's the holding the bullies quote, all the Vietnam stuff. But I really did, it was interesting. So here was, so back in the 30s, the United States has always seen, I can't remember who said it, countries don't have friends, countries have interests, which really means their ruling class has interests. You, me, Dragon movie guy, where the border means very little. We're people trying to make a living. We're not enemies, but those that own everything that we live on, kind of like us being upset with each other. All right. Anyway, back in the 30s, there was a thing called Plan Red, an American plan to invade and take over, annex Canada. Wow, it's like,
what?
They always kind of had this in mind. But here's a great quote. Okay. More importantly, Plan Red illustrates something about the U.S. that Canadians often prefer to ignore, that there is, somewhere deep in the American psyche, a profoundly militaristic and aggressive bent. I'm not 100% sure I agree with that, but we'll let it go. Okay, quote, "What is the mentality and line of illogic that leads ranking military professionals, executive cabinet officers, and congressmen to plan and prepare war on an ally and good neighbor?" asks Floyd Rudman, a U.S.-born psychologist who teaches at the University of Tromsø, Norway. I think now that belies it. The American psyche versus, amongst some people, it's definitely part of their psyche. But she goes on, Rudman argues that the U.S. militarism on display today in Iraq, this was written in the early aughts, runs deep in American culture and goes well beyond the specifics of current geopolitics or the Bush administration. Now, some of this I agree with, if we're talking about a Gramsci-esque, culture of the hegemonic culture, that culture that is supported and approved by the rich and powerful.
Yeah.
All right. Quote, "There's something wrong at a much deeper level in American political culture. The American malady of militarism," a little alliteration there. Let me say it again. "The American malady of militarism extends across decades, across generations, and is so deeply rooted in the American mind that attacking another nation seems to be the natural, spontaneous reaction of choice." And I was like, oh, that's, I can't highlight it. It's a library book, but I can tag it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely worth it, especially if you're Canadian thinking, oh, we're so much better than the Americans. Yeah, this is a curative for that, because a lot of it, and we don't even have that. I mean, we might think of ourselves, oh, we're all friends here. It's like, I can be friends. Countries, not so much. And Canada has always been driven, let's say the rich and powerful is like, well, we need access to those markets. And we have no problem selling Agent Orange to the Americans. What do they do with it afterwards? I don't know. In 1969.
Yeah.
Who knows? They're good friends and
Not
great
my
customers.
I take it they're using it in good faith.
Yeah. Just like the bombs and other military equipment we sell to the Israelis.
Or current guns that are being used in Sudan,
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, where were we? Oh, yes. Okay.
Movies, something.
Yes. Well, we are talking about movies about war.
Yeah.
And whereas it is a little on the nose. When we think about the little girl from Hanoi, yeah, it is. But I mean, I can't say are they pro fighting back? Are they pro surviving? Absolutely. But at no time, like, I mean, other times it's like the tears and don't worry, think of me as part of your family.
Yeah.
But that is all of everything in The Little Girl of Hanoi is pro-social. At no time, like, I mean, you don't see, as they trot away the American prisoners, you don't see a big public display of them made. You do see angry Vietnamese going, you killed my husband. It's like, because they did.
Yeah.
It's not, how dare you challenge them with what they're doing.
Yeah.
Unlike Apocalypse Now, which, although it will show insanity, it's almost like it's always baking in the excuses for the terrible cruelties they've done upon this country. Well, war is crazy, and it makes you crazy.
Yeah. Who'd have thunk it?
Who'd have thunk it? Whereas, yeah, as it glamorizes certain aspects and says, well, it's inevitable because, of course, these people would be crazy. It's a justification of the soldier. I mean, The Little Girl of Hanoi is a justification for fighting back and why they're fighting back. Especially when we look at the context of Linebacker 2, October of 72, they come to the agreement. They basically have agreed to a deal. Nixon goes to the South Vietnamese regime, says, hey, and South Vietnam, nope, the border's got to be permanent, this, that, and the other thing. And so he's like, they go back to the Vietnamese, hey, yeah, that deal we worked out, we have some minor tweaks. In other words, ditch that and accept things that you won't ever accept. And then to force it, they bomb the crap out of them over fucking Christmas. Because nothing says Christian like dropping the largest bombing campaign since World War II with heavy bombers.
Yeah.
Than doing it at Christmas.
On probably some civilian population.
Yeah, that's it. Because they always say that. Oh, it's only military and industrial.
It was cloudy. We had a brief window.
You can't drop that much stuff and go.
Oh.
And so what if it's on military targets? The military targets defending their own country? There's no good spin on this. Advanced a little later, the Vietnamese do agree to go back to the negotiating table, but you can tell under it, there was, like, the way it worked out, was they basically, the only way they went back is, first of all, it can't be attached to the bombing campaign. Of course, Ho Chi Minh and his fellow, the politicians in the military running the show, it's like, well, we can't go back to the people saying, oh yeah, they did bomb us into capitulation. Decades of this BS. And now we'll give up at the end when they're winning. But you can tell that the Americans agreed because they basically got the same deal that they had back in October. And that even then, the Americans had to come up with a way to display it because, to quote some, and I can't remember which, some congressman saying, hey, well, we can't say, I don't think you should talk about it this way. You should talk about that, because otherwise it's going to look like we did a bombing campaign, just end up, we bombed them. Oh, right. We bombed them for peace. And it's like, I wouldn't say that, because that's going to look like we bombed them to make them agree to the thing they'd already agreed to in October. It's so corrupt, so gross.
The whole thing just, just so, and I almost did a screen capture because I was watching it on my computer. There's a line where a woman says to a child, "That bully Nixon." I just print screen, but
well, and that's a great thing, because they're not. Yeah, they do talk about the Americans. Boy, they hate B-52s. I don't think I'll be able to listen to a B-52 song the same way. But no shit, they hate the B-52.
Yeah.
But at no time, it was part of their propaganda. I think it's why we see a white nurse. We see a black doctor. We see these. It is part of their idea.
Oh, that's right.
Themselves.
The white nurse. Yeah.
It is.
Who's actually speaking Vietnamese?
Yeah. Although I thought it was dubbed.
Probably. Yeah.
Well, it's hard to say. Like, the quality is.
Yeah.
If folks, again, it's a rough movie. Farha, for production values, much better. Professional. Worse movie. Yeah. If you want to see a movie about, see them both, because it's good to support and ally and see this experience written by them. But whatever her name is, whatever that little girl from Hanoi's name is, that's somebody to follow. Sorry. Yeah, I think it's part of their idea of themselves. And so it's Nixon, not the evil Americans. Whereas Slopes, Gooks, and the French diatribe about the Viets, and they hate us and they hate the Chinese, and they'll smile at you, but, well, yeah, you're their imperial overlords.
Yeah, and you probably haven't.
Who won't get the hint and just leave?
Yeah, you probably haven't really treated them all that well as you think you have.
Every boss thinks they're loved.
Yes, yeah.
All right, Jim, let's get to the. I am going to ask. Now that we've had this conversation, why don't you elaborate in your answer about is the way I kind of wrote it is Apocalypse Now Redux critiquing the war, or is it critiquing the prosecution of the war? Over to you, Jim.
Sure. In a lot of ways, it's almost like Martin Sheen's character, who's not a particularly reflective assassin. He's killed numerous people, and he it's just part of what he does. So, and he's often portrayed as an observer himself.
Even then, even though we're always in his head.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
an
and
interesting note, Jim. Yeah.
the narration goes on for quite a while, and I was gonna earlier on I was gonna ask. I don't think it hurts the movie. Of course, we're told in all the making a film books is that narration is to be avoided at all costs. But you grow up watching movies with narration, so it seems kind of natural in some cases. Um, but yeah, we're sort of seeing it from his perspective, and he's often just observing things. Like he's sitting back, not really saying much, and just whether it's the younger soldiers chatting on the boat and razzing each other, or him in a different situation, or even him at lunch with the people that are presenting him with the
Yeah.
mission in the first place, including Harrison Ford.
Even when he's sleeping with the girl, he
Yeah.
doesn't have a conversation with her.
No, he's just sort of observing. So maybe it's just that, in that way, perhaps the movie isn't super critical, but rather it's an observer of war, and more so it's about maybe, like I said earlier, the inevitability. As long as you have people like this in power, perhaps the inevitability of war. Yeah, it's kind of an uncomfortable perspective,
Yeah.
to say that, yeah, this is how a lot of this ends for a lot of people, in a lot of societies. But yeah.
I'm you know what? I do think they were trying to make an anti-war or anti-Vietnam War or
Mhm.
this is so crazy. I think they were trying to do that. I think that's what Coppola wanted to do. I think Milius, though, and Coppola to a degree were kind of and we see this in a lot of Vietnam War movies from the American perspective.
Mhm.
And this is the fly in the ointment of this film, of that attempt to be anti-war, is I think at its heart, it still is like, we could have won it, but
Yeah.
now the French were being stabbed in the back, like all militarists, it's like, oh, the people were too weak. Some Japanese or German nut at the end, right? It's the
Yeah.
same thing. Uh, never themselves, never the way they prosecuted it, right? I think and this has got that too. What is this? He's going through the briefings and he's reading the briefings and everything, and how enemy activity in the sector fell after he assassinated those guys because he just decided Kurtz had just decided to assassinate a couple of the South
Oh, agents.
Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like there is that idea that it's like, well, they were beaten in American households. They were beaten this way. They're beaten that way, and it's like, I don't know. Maybe you lost because it was a stupid idea. Actually, a terrible, not just a stupid idea, a criminally stupid idea. You had
Mhm.
no business being there, just as the French had no business being there. You were there to extract wealth, to fight the Russians, to fight the Chinese, whatever. You killed a lot of people, and then you left.
Mhm.
You know, I never get that from this film. Never once is it going, wow, war really is awful.
Mhm.
Or you get the horror, but boy, they show the glory. When there is combat, when the machine guns are going, it's cool. Even when it's crazy, it's cool.
Yeah.
So it's this weird kind of this thing we love, but we're going to point out the decadence and the problem for the soldier, the problem for the warrior. But it's like at no time, there's never we see. I'm going to get that goop when they're shooting one of the women who throws a hand grenade into
Oh,
the
yeah.
medevac helicopter, and there is the as they go deeper upriver and it gets crazier and weirder, they're shooting locals They're like, and while you go, it's bad. Everything justifies their behavior, their crazy behavior. Well, they're crazy. This is crazy. What, it's like, no, you just didn't have to be there.
Yeah.
Who is holding a gun to the United States head? And this is where I think, that the quote I read here is perfect. This idea that it just seems natural to invade. We don't like what they're doing. They're, how quickly in the American political culture, the circumstances can be ramped up. Weapons of mass destruction. Stop the communists, domino theory, all this stuff. Then later on, Nixon and Kissinger going, we can put we'll be like puppet masters and pit the Chinese and the Russians against each other and forever and on. Like if there's inevitability of war, it's not because of Kurtz or Willard. It's because of that. And you don't
off
see
screen.
it in this film. And again, versus Jim, this film where it's like, why they're fighting. Seems like a reasonable idea. Seems like a reasonable thing to fight, but they're not glorified. They don't get the sexiest shots. It's focused on this little girl. And her very real and reasonable desire to see her father. And of course it's the country's pulling together. Well, every country has that kind of narrative about itself. Here, there is very good objective. It's always it's a tough word to use in this kind of context, but there's a lot of solid evidence supporting that, yeah, Ho Chi Minh was incredibly popular. The Vietnamese Communist Party was incredibly popular. If the South Vietnamese government was so popular, it wouldn't have needed the United States to prop it up.
Yeah.
Buddhist monks would not have been immolating themselves in public squares. But to my question, answer the question, I'm like, while it's pro-fighting back, this movie ends on a note of a family coming back together. It doesn't end with, a weird sort of, like, it doesn't end on, and we will fight and we will win. I'm thinking Paul Verhoeven's satire of that kind of military glorification in Starship Troopers. It doesn't end on that. It ends on a note of, you've just got, hey, we're going to rebuild our country. We're going to have families back together again. Go to school. Like every other parent, I want you to go to school. Work hard. Pay attention to your teachers. Quit your crying.
Yeah.
And so if we're, maybe it's too simplistic a question. I think they tried to make with Apocalypse Now, they were trying as best as they could. These Americans were trying to figure out, how do we explain what we just went through? We were the heroes, not 25 years before. 30 years. 30 years before this film was shot, they had just finished World War II, where they were the good guys. Everyone knew why they were there.
Yeah.
And as they learn more of it, their reasons for being there grew. Here, it's all awful. No one wants to be there. And I think this film is trying to explain that.
Yeah.
While not willing to give up on the things that make a war movie cool.
Well, and that's always the really tricky dividing line, isn't it? And not a lot of, the best filmmakers haven't really been able to solve that. Whether it's war, like the tough
I don't know.
war
We've
movie.
seen some of the.
Do
you come away from that going, again, much like this, like I'm an infinitely better film, but still focused on a child's experience? Come and see. And this movie, the girl from Hanoi, they're both kind of saying, hey, this is what war really is.
It's not it's not impossible.
Yeah.
right? But I think if you are a guy like Coppola, yeah, it's going to be a challenge to sort of remove the theatricality of war from war itself. And I think you're fighting against yourself in that situation. I think it's depending on the director and depending what your initial goal is with a movie. Like obviously, Girl from Hanoi is not going to end in a fierce street battle or
Firefight.
anything like
Although,
that.
unless they want to change the tone at the end.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's a few things. It's almost like trying to depict insanity and not make it romantic. You can have Kirk Douglas going, "Oh, I feel so much rage," or you can playing Van Gogh, or you can have Tim Roth who's drinking turpentine, and you're like, okay, that's
Yeah.
not sexy,
Well,
and
Requiem for a Dream, where you going? Oh,
yeah, yeah.
heroin sucks.
Yeah, and I think there's maybe it's not so much a question of the skill of the director, but the director being able to separate
Well, it's
spectacle
about
from
choices.
from the theme, or just I think we'd all love to direct like a real snappy fighting sequence, but and
Well,
those are the ones that get the headlines,
film
right?
does such a good job of presenting it, right? It's
Yeah.
just it's a medium that lends itself to that kind of dramatic spectacle.
Yeah.
And again, to not totally crap on Apocalypse Now, like that scene, that cut scene that's reintroduced in with Kilgore begging for his board back, kind of undercuts the big drama, the Chicago. What is it again? Let me find it. Bear with me, my friend. There we go. It undermines this BS.
Oh yes, yeah.
Like,
Chicago, so.
yeah, I mean, though here's the headline. It's from Euro News. It's Is the Trump administration culturally illiterate? Jim, there was a time when this would land better. Is the Pope Polish? Was a Pope Polish? Yes, there was a Polish Pope.
Commander Bonespurs there,
Yeah,
as if he'd ever
exactly.
crouch and be able to get it back up. But
Yeah. So I think it does try to, but I think in the end, it probably the biggest problem is if all you really want to do is show the soldier's perspective, especially the grunt on the line, then this is what you get. It is really difficult. Maybe there was that movie with Michael J. Fox and Sean Penn. I cannot remember the name, but it was about soldiers essaying a Vietnamese woman, and just it was a solid flick, a really solid flick.
Here comes Casualties of War.
Thank you. Yeah. A really solid flick, but yeah, it's like there. Yeah, you're like, okay, well, there's the soldier's experience. A real soldier's experience, sexual assault.
Yeah, there's an old David Spade bit where he's doing an imitation of Michael J. Fox. He goes, "Hey, let's redo some scenes from that." To Sean Penn, he's like, "Hey, why do you have to go doing that?" And Sean Penn, the actor, is just like glaring at him. But
well, let me ask you this then. Let's if there's, I guess there's a couple of things here. Oh, and I almost forgot this. It's like, unlike, yeah, and again, I'm not going to say, Jim, that the Girl from Hanoi, like it is a propaganda piece, but like you said, had a heart, coming from a good place. But their depiction, if it might be fantastic, it might be, I don't know if that's a legitimate description of Vietnamese then culture or now. I don't know. Although, what the hell am I going to listen to an American's opinion on that? No.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? The place you bombed, you're the expert. So I'll take it from them for now until proven otherwise. Whereas I think Apocalypse Now is really honest about race, intentionally and unintentionally. It like a good horror movie, the black guys die.
Mm.
The working class chef dies. Why of everyone on that boat, why does Lance live?
Oh,
You have a theory. Excellent.
I don't have so much of a theory of why but there's a thing to this where when they put on the face paint, the camouflage,
Yeah.
it's almost like a magical mask that protects anybody. So that's, it starts off with Timothy Bottom. Well, it doesn't start off with Kilgore, but he's obviously not worried about bullets or bombs. And they say,
Willard says, he's the guy who will come out of it without a scratch.
Exactly.
He is that. He's a threshold guardian. Threshold guardians rarely die. You get around them. You sneak around them.
So it almost comes from. So shortly after that, Lance puts on face paint, and it stays there for the entire movie. And he gets high, and he's sort of removed from everything a little bit. He survives without a scratch. To the point where Willard has to he's walking through the crowd, and he grabs his hand, and he goes, "Let's get out of here,
little boy."
Willard wears the face paint at the end. He's not touched. And when Kurtz goes to kill Chef and deposit his head, he has to sneak up on him. Evidently,
he's wearing the same mask.
He's wearing the same facial, the makeup, which he isn't wearing later when Willard dispatches him. So that's just
an interesting idea.
That's just it doesn't explain why. It's just something that I recognized this time for the first time rewatching it.
That's a cool idea. I'm going to go for a macro thing. It's like all the guys who die, they have a couple things in common. One, they are agents of others. Like Lance sort of checks out. He may fire the gun, he may kill people, but he's checked out.
Yeah.
Clean is the one who starts killing people with the little sampan.
The boat,
by. So he has violated a norm even within war. And like in a good horror, you're a goner. The skipper, he's the one who's, let's go get that boat. He denied himself just before that sex. But here this is where he falls. And even later when the arrows, and it's just, he can't, he's like, no, he's like a dog who can't let it go. And he finally catches the car.
Yeah.
Sorry, the spear. And then tries to, I never understood that. And it's only when I watched it again where I'm like, oh, that's why he's pulling him, because he's trying to kill Willard on the spear that killed him. It's like, oh, boy, he was in peril.
No, that's some pretty strong imagery too.
Yeah. So there's a reason why he has to die. Chef, he a kind of voice of reason, just as bigoted as the rest of them. But he is like at the end, let's kill these guys and get the hell out of here. And I'm going to stay on the boat. But you kind of like, he is now signed on with the mission. And so now he's got to go. And so I get that, like narratively, it makes sense. Whereas Lance is totally checked out. But I cannot help but think, the pretty white boy, Fame, he's fine.
Yeah. California surfer dude.
Yeah, he'll go back to a good life. Whereas the two black guys, including one who apparently was only 14, Mr. Jackson. Fishburne, sorry. Yeah. He was just a big kid. But he was young and young in the film, like
Going to the Philippines,
chef.
Mom.
So he may have went to school, but it's still be a trade school. You know, may have went to France.
Yeah.
Learned to trade. You know, this is not somebody who's going to be. They're all working class. Two black guys, a guy from Louisiana, like they die. The pre-server, the celebrity.
Yeah.
He lives, and I'm like, I'm not saying that's on purpose, but I am saying it's like, yeah, I can see all the filmmakers going, no, that makes sense.
Checks. It checks. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Final question. Before we get into the scene or skip it. I mean, it might be a little extreme, but you know, back to the thumbnail, at least the thumbnail for now, villains versus heroes.
Who would win in a fight, Cat or Willard?
But that's the thing. Willard is he is the protagonist, just as the little girl is the protagonist. Is Willard a hero?
Ooh, I don't think so. Yeah, just by virtue of the fact, he's kind of lost. He does what he does. He's an agent of the dark arts. Yeah, I don't know. And he's what? I mean, this is a whole other hour. But what are his motivations? Like, he just seems to be addicted to the missions.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't have a long. He's not very reflective. Although he does have the breakdown in the hotel, that came from somewhere at the very start.
Yeah.
That had to have come from somewhere. Some reflection got through at that point, obviously. But in general, he's not very reflective. He's a killer, and he's sort of unapologetic about it. He may be an observer, but he's kind of a malevolent presence, really. He just happens to be on our side.
Yeah. He is ruthless.
And we're saying, it makes fighting look cool and stuff like that. Martin Sheen's a terribly charismatic man, right? You just look at him, he holds your attention. I thought he was a super cool guy. I first saw
on
him
the left of this picture. You see movie star.
Oh yeah. Well, both of them have that sort of quality, but in different ways. But I knew who he was because he sort of jumps out at you. I was probably 8 or 9 watching the late night CTV showing of Cassandra Crossing, and in a horribly made co-pro ensemble piece with aging stars, a young I think Sophia Loren, Burt Lancaster's in it, and then a young Martin Sheen, of course, who's probably not too far away from Apocalypse Now at that point. O.J. Simpson's in it. He stood out to me immediately, even as a kid. So, you
but
get
back to the question.
Yeah.
Is Willard a hero?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay.
I don't think you can have an assassin who's a hero, but I could be proven wrong.
I'm going to say, although he doesn't die at the end, he may even have changed. Like it says, he switches the radio off. Like in the first cut of the film, the theatrical one, we get the idea that the airstrike's been called in. Now he's killed Kurtz, but he's like, I'm not even in the army anymore. He is left. He may finish the mission, but he has left the army.
They were supposed to make me major for this.
Yeah. That doesn't make him heroic, though. I think there's a tragic nature to it, but I think he's like a Greek hero.
Okay.
Like a classic, like a classical Greek hero, an epic hero.
With the faults,
all the faults, all the
hubris.
Odysseus is not a good guy. He's pretty selfish at times. He's self-destructive. Yeah, I think he's heroic, epically heroic, like in a Greek sense.
Yeah, I could buy that. Yeah.
Um, but yes, coming back to there's another. Yeah, he ain't the good guy.
Mhm.
He is the. I mean, it's harsh. But yeah, the he is the sharp end of the militarist spear.
Yeah.
You know, so I have to go kill that guy. It's Chef who at the end kind of, really, I thought you were going to blow up a bridge or something. You're killing one of our own guys. It's what, you know, it's just so, it's the final bit of insanity. And Chef is the only one pointing it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, he's like, it's the mission. Oh, well, listen, we're not bringing this woman who could live, who's done nothing wrong. Shoot her. The mission. He is a Greek hero, but he is a bad guy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's a good
that
point.
I think I would say. Whereas, the young woman who plays the little girl from Hanoi,
Mhm.
name to be figured out later, she is, well, yeah, she's a little girl. What? She's not bad. What she
No.
wants is good.
Mhm.
Even the crashing of the B-52, she does a little dance. I get that. I'd want the same thing. Imagine that hell being dropped on you every night.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Merry Christmas from the US of A. And there is something, and this is what's interesting about the films and how they're both quests. They both have quests. I don't think while there's a good reason for Willard's quest, there's nothing noble about it.
Mm.
There's everything good and right and just even in her quest. They make a great contrast.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
I'm saying here, Jim.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So with that out of the way,
Sure.
before we get into see it or skip it, because we still have to answer that question. Everyone, please, you've made it this far, 2 hours in. Please like, subscribe, and ringy ding that bell. Only the best in digital and visual effects from us, folks.
There we go.
All right, Jim. We'll start with Apocalypse Now Redux. Is it a see it or a skip it?
Yeah, see it absolutely. It's just the scale of it, the epic quality of it. It's a troubled production, but it's definitely worth seeing. So absolutely see it. Strong see it.
Yeah. I am going to say the same. Of course, it's more qualified. I think you really do have to be open to a deeper read.
Mm-hmm.
Read a little history of the Vietnam War. If you're Canadian, read a little history of our involvement in it. We had no problem profiting off of it, off of the death of the Vietnamese. Working class American kids going to die in some war that had nothing to do with their material circumstances. But yeah, it is a truly capital G great film.
Mm-hmm.
And one that is still part of our pop culture, film culture, let's say.
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's move to Jim. The Girl from Hanoi. Is it a see it or a skip it?
Yeah, I'd say it's a see it, and it would be a see it because it is a different perspective that you probably haven't seen before. From the other side of the fence, I guess. And it does have some good qualities. It is propaganda, so prepare yourself for that. But just the sequences with the kids, I sort of wish, in a way, I wish it was all kids, not like Bugsy Malone, but just maybe involving the two sisters, because those were genuinely enjoyable parts of the movie, and she's great. Like the lead young woman who plays Ha is amazing.
Yeah. For me, Jim, I'm saying it's a see it. I'm saying it's a stronger see it. Is it a roughly made film? Absolutely. Yes, it is propaganda, but again, I said it before. That's I'm okay with that narrative. I'm okay with that production. You need to be aware of it, but let's not think that Apocalypse Now isn't propaganda either. Nothing that cost as much as a movie costs doesn't have an agenda, a mission. I have my tag on the banner. It's never just a movie. Apocalypse Now has a message. Just because the State Department didn't finance it doesn't mean it doesn't have a message. If we think about, Jim, another great propaganda win, which is a lot more overt, is Top Gun. I don't get all that support from the American Armed Forces, except that it fits their agenda about the other and about why they're good and they're all right and just. Yeah, pure propaganda. What you need to ask, I think, folks, is like with any movie, any artwork, what is it selling you? Why is it, does it come from a good place? And I would say this is a pro-social piece. Even the parts where it seems a little, you never once hear to the glory of the the People's Republic of Vietnam and it is sincere. It's coming from a good place, and nothing it says about how it thinks the world should be, is something I'm going, well, that's terrible. Yeah, I want little girls. I don't just want little girls to find their father. I want people going back to whether it be none of us are free if some of us are not free. I want the Palestine people to be free. I want the Ukrainian people to be free. And so a pro-social film like this that doesn't glorify war, but does just say, hey, we get to fight back, I'm good with. So it's a stronger see it. And in part, I'm like, I want to see the Palestinian version of this. Of course, it can't have the same end. The Palestinian story is still being told. Well, so is the Vietnamese story, but you know what I mean. But it's like, wow, this kid does stuff. It's like just such when you compare, it shows all the weaknesses of Farha so much brighter, even though this is just such a much rougher film. And
go
ahead. Sorry.
I think you have to ask yourself, when's the last time you saw a Vietnamese movie too?
And yes, you know what? You're right, Jim. I know this is the first Vietnamese movie we covered, and you'd actually say, I want to see a Vietnamese movie, but not about war. And I think I failed in that mission.
No,
that doesn't mean that we can't have that.
There's a
number of Korean films. We've had a couple of Japanese films. We've had Chinese films. We can have a Vietnamese film, and we're gonna.
I did there's one on Canopy, a real cheapo horror movie called KFC, which I watched, in my effort to watch a Vietnamese movie that wasn't about the war. It was horrible. But anyway, I did it. So
I'm sure though, but it's something we can cover that's maybe not horrible.
Yeah, no, you would not like it. It's very
5
gory.
Minutes of, that was crap.
Yeah, no, it was horrible. But yeah. Okay. So there you go.
Well, on that note, folks.
Well, I just wanted to mention one more thing, and interesting in terms of the rabbit hole. Another interesting aspect. I have it in the house, and I wasn't prepared for it. There's a book called The Sympathizer. I think it won the Pulitzer Prize back in 2015. but it is by Viet Thanh Nguyen, who's a Vietnamese American, and he's a professor actually, and that has a big chunk. The main character is a double agent for the North Vietnamese, who's fell in with the South Vietnamese as they get thrown back into the States, or as they find refuge in the States. He actually works on a movie called The Hamlet that's not unlike Apocalypse Now. He thinks he's going to get the director to acknowledge, give some Vietnamese some speaking parts at least, so they're at least a little bit represented. It's
How'd
also
that work out for him?
Yeah, not very well, but spoiler alert. But it's a good book, and there's a series with Robert Downey Jr. playing all the parts of the white dudes that was released last year. It's HBO, and it's Don McKellar is involved, and Park Chan-wook, is that who it is? But anyway, Korean director, and it's definitely worth a watch. It's about an 8-parter, and yeah, it's very good. And yeah, there's a chunk of it that directly acknowledges the lack of Vietnamese representation in movies like
pop culture. Yeah.
Apocalypse Now. So,
all right. On that note, folks, thank you all very much. Again, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring-a-ding that bell.
Jim and Rob Redux.